I look at fear, like fear is the feeling the fear is the flames of the phoenix that burns away who you're not, so the miracle of who you are can arise. And if you're not feeling the fear, it means you don't have the flames, which means who you are not is not getting burnt away. So I love to just have that frame of like, okay, cool, I'm feeling fear, like that's not comfortable, it's not supposed to be, but that's the flames helping burn away who I'm not, so the phoenix can arise, the miracle of who I am now, not who I remembered myself to be, but who I am now can arise. And I think that's something we can all work with if it fits.
I don't think people know how huge that is. I mean, that was so big. In fact, if we make this a YouTube video, that's the preview clip. Comes right on the top. In fact, me saying that's the preview clip is the next part of the preview clip. In fact, then we'll run it from there till the end and start the video. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my dear friend, JP Sears, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
I hope that your intro was close to the script you gave me.
It was, and you're still on the correct script that I gave you, so
yeah,
it's awesome. We're going through the motions.
And all this here is scripted too.
Indeed, and me saying this about the validating that it's scripted is also scripted.
And me saying this about scripted. Yeah, even me reading me saying this about scripted, and this is scripted too.
Yeah, and my favorite part of the script is the part that says, just kidding, none of this is scripted.
Right, which I haven't read yet.
Yeah, well,
there it is. I have my scripts in different places.
Me too. I hid mine in my brain.
Yeah, that's cool.
Arising in the present moment. Like I read it when the
Elon Musk.
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Dude. So
it's so fun to be here with you, brother. And this whole community. Screw whatever you were about to say, Kyle.
Welcome. I was just going to start looking like I had something to say.
I just want to share. It was 3 years ago. I had a chance to attend Evolving Out Loud, and I think it was like one of the big theaters in LA. Yeah, I mean, sold out for the weekend. Like, just so many, like 1,500, 1,600 people there, and just the Evolving Out Loud community was just like, my heart is still warmed by that experience 3 years ago. And I know that's the caliber of people that are on here. So I just want to just share with everybody. Dude, thank you for welcoming me tonight.
No, man, when you came to that, it was such an honor. I kind of felt like I was just bragging, bringing you on the stage. I feel like I'm showing off now, like I know this guy. I think that, there is such a unique, brilliant voice you've created. And you have, so many people have been impacted by your work. And I'm just so proud of you because I got to know you as that was still building. And now it's so big. I mean, the stuff you're saying is so big and it's so good. And I don't know, I love you, and I'm very thankful to have you here. And there's so much I also want to ask you about, as far as, how you're feeling in this time, how you're feeling creatively, how, talk to me about, a lot of people don't know, right, like recently JP made a video that was incredible and made some really big points, and it got pulled, right? Yeah. And I can feel that one of the things that happened was they didn't know what they were messing with. Like, it was almost like we just watched, it was like a Matrixy moment where it's like JP was like, watch me. And you can just feel now, I don't care what you say. And I feel like there's some new aspect of you that, and I mean this in a great way, that like is moving from some, I have nothing to lose, I am going to go all out, I'm standing for my truth, I'm creating on the highest. Am I hitting anything? Do you want to comment on that and what your emotional journey's been through this?
Completely inaccurate. I felt like the biggest. No,
Yeah.
yeah, the that reads me really well, and I know I'm not the only one in this community right now having that vibe of like, man, something's really been awakened in me. Ironically, during this time of awakening that we're in, and I can certainly speak a little bit to my unique version of that. And I think it's common ground. So, like, well, what's your version? But, in what was it, probably like the beginning of April, the my fearful state about, disease and people, like human connection is deadly. My fear about that was gone. And I love to be in touch with what's my body say, what's my gut say, what's my heart say, what's my intuition say. And I don't know what the truth of any situation is, but I know what bullshit feels like to me, because I trust my body when I'm in tune with it. So hearing all the things like you should be afraid of this and you should do this, I'm like, well, I guess I'm failing because I'm not afraid. Like, that actually feels like bullshit based on my truth meter. And that calibrated me in with like a bigger truth that was asking to live through me there in the springtime. And I always, yeah, the past few years, I've really felt on purpose, but now it's like on purpose squared. Instead of like, oh, calling out the spiritual ego and the our communities, now it's like, oh, this is like actually standing for something different. It feels bigger to me, and that brought up a fear in me of like, well, geez, like I've never gone there before with my audience. What I've been doing, like now, it feels like it'd be playing it safe if I kept rehashing in that territory. But it felt important to me to go there, so I went there and just started sharing my perspectives through the language of comedy about what I thought was fear mongering and things happening that weren't in people's best interest. And that came from my internal relationship with like, oh wow, this thing's asking me to give it birth. And I'll share with you, before I get to the censoring part, I'll share with you, my brain was telling me like, oh, like me being aligned with my truth to a greater degree, it feels like I'm going to lose my audience or part of it. Like, oh, and but I'm like, well, cool. I have to do what I have to do anyway. And a weird thing happened. Like, my audience has actually never grown more during a period of time. It's really just exponentiated. And I mean, that was weird. Like, oh, I guess my brain was wrong. That's odd. And that also taught me that so many other people out there are looking to give birth to a bigger truth in their life, or else there's no way they'd be attracted to me as I embody that energy. And then, lastly, probably a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago or so at this point, YouTube censored me, then Facebook censored me, took down a couple of videos that I did. And, funny thing about truth, at least my individual truth, that the truth wants to be expressed. So when that's not happening, there was something awakened in me even more. Like the hornet's nest was kicked, and that made me like awaken to an even bigger truth that I stand for now. It's like freedom from fear, freedom of speech. And really, I think that, yes, globally, yet individually, it's like, Jesus, how many of us are censoring ourselves? How many of us, are indoctrinated to our own fearful stories and living constricted lives and house arrest within ourselves. having to conform to what we tell ourselves we're supposed to be. And it's like, man, like I know I do that a lot,
Right.
and I don't think I'm the only one. And so I think my passion to honor my voice, my passion to honor my individuality is being reflected in my, my work as of late, where I'm certainly inviting people to wake up to their version of living beyond the fear and living beyond their own self-imposed censoring and draconian self-holocausty crap that we do to ourselves too much.
Don't you think like that almost implies, I mean, this is something that sure shows up for me, that almost implies that as we lived in our own prison that we voluntarily kept, I know that when we were kids it was put on us, but then that was our habit, that was our, thing, that we were actually almost asking for this as the mirror of that. It's almost like we're saying, hey, we're moving like prisoners. Please match this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. What a gift, as long as we pay attention and realize what you just said. Like, this is not only happening for us, but it's happening by us,
Mm-hmm.
because like that's what we're doing to ourselves. And of course, I think the gift will certainly feel like a curse if we don't have the courage to act on it and have the personal ownership of owning and waking up to live beyond the fearful states that we've lived in. And I know everybody online here, we've all worked hard to awaken parts of ourselves, and those parts need to be celebrated. They deserve that. And I think we also have other parts of us yet to be integrated into ourselves. And luckily, we have enough awakened parts that they can go in and rescue the other parts that are still sitting in the coffin of their comfort zones that they've been consenting to.
Wow. I actually wonder too, I always kind of play with the level that we need to wake up as a collective, or will it match actually literally me, or for you, literally you? Like as you move this way and you actually activate your full, I mean, you're activating a whole new level of you, and you're activating, every part of that you know of right now. Like there seems to be no holding back. Does the world start to feel safer to you? And do you actually see evidence of some of those old control structures that seem to be around you that you would have perceived that you don't have control of falling anyway? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, indeed. And yes, like ironically, it feels safer to the deeper I go into what, a few moments ago, a few months ago, felt like dangerous territory. The more I go there, the safer it feels, which to me kind of like I anchor that in myself with like the sense of like, the more I'm willing to risk being myself, the more I'm willing to risk what feels like death, the safer I am and the more I can live. And I think things are a paradox. I think the most dangerous place is our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Ironically, it feels safest, and kind of like the person always on the verge of death, living in the alley with a needle on their arm, that feels super safe to them, and we can look at it and say, well, it's actually really dangerous,
Right.
that comfort zone you've constructed.
And even though it's not necessarily that, it's like our even just sitting and not activating your in the name of safety. It's like almost the voice that says that would be dangerous. When you don't say yes to the thing and you retract, you're in more danger. It's almost like you have this awareness of a freer world, of an exciting world, an expansive world, and you've chosen not to follow it out of the calling of safety. And the
Yeah.
ironic thing is how much more dangerous it is. It almost feels like the part that had the fear, once you said yes to the highest, dissolved, because
Yeah.
you were in a world where this would be scary because it's a forward move. But once you live in it, it's not a forward move, it's you.
Yeah.
Right. And so every time we say yes to that calling and not, we got to be careful. So, and the ironic thing is, so then the more we live out of safety, we're actually making ourselves sicker. We're making
Yeah.
ourselves, smaller. We're making ourselves lose our creativity. We're living our life looking for what could go wrong. We're actually asking for the thing energetically.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if a butthole was sitting there saying like, dude, it is not safe to poop. Like to like open up to let something come through. Like that's not safe. Like let's just clamp down and let's just be
Right.
like this. We know that creates a
Yeah.
very dangerous situation inside.
Right.
But
Right.
then
Or I'll
when
pee tomorrow, you know?
yeah, that's the best time to do it.
Yeah, and then you keep not doing it, and it's more painful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and but I love your wisdom, Kyle, and I mean, screw everybody else. I want to say this for my own therapy to anchor it. The me that I've allowed myself to become these past few months, the me that's living in territory that JP of March would say like, "Ooh, dude, doing that's dangerous." Like, yeah, this JP actually feels the safest, most secure I've ever felt. And it's not the like, that kind of safety. It's more the safety that comes from being integrated and being ourselves. It's like, what if being ourselves was the safest thing we could ever do? And not being ourselves was the most dangerous thing we could ever do to ourselves.
and how ironic to be like when I had my circumstances the way I wanted it a year ago, I was I was comfortable, but I wasn't myself as
Yeah.
nearly as much as now. It's
Yeah.
like life didn't need to be so cutting edge, so I didn't have to know. I could just kind of live in my circumstances enough. I could constantly be sitting looking into the future. Oh, I got that thing coming up. I have my comfort. And it's like if we take the comfort away, you get to this place. I've always thought to myself, the power of having nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And a great example, not to get too political, but I almost feel like when I see politicians like last year, no matter who you feel politically, I just remember the Democratic debates. And there were some that you knew were just there with nothing to lose, like Marianne Williamson or
Sure.
Tulsi or Andrew Yang, I feel like had kind of nothing to lose. And then there
Yeah.
were the people that you could tell were bought by, they were just backdoor deals. And the people with nothing to lose are going up and motivated and have this place to
Yeah.
move towards. And the people with something to lose are much more in the frequency of what will I lose?
Yeah.
And so there was much more structure and strategy and no calling and no soul and no like
Yeah.
passion. And when you move from a place of understanding there's nothing to lose, and that doesn't mean don't don't keep your family safe, don't whatever, but allow the detachments of things, the attachments of things to break off and find the greatest version of you
Yeah.
and watch how much life matches this power. It really feels like this incredible mirror of you. And I feel like, I mean, I saw that when, so you had a first video that got censored, and then like it was just like, and by the way, you demonstrated for me an overall feeling of like the world moving this way. Like it was just like,
Mm,
oh, they're gonna take some things away. Watch me. And I was just thinking,
mm,
like, what if even 10% of the world started feeling the fear of something that was normal to them being taken away, and it awoken this thing,
yeah.
you know? Like you kind of showed that. I was like, I haven't seen JP move. I haven't seen anyone move like JP's moving now.
When I get censored, it's just like, huh, like, okay, now I feel more aligned with my truth. Like it feels like actually affirmation, like, oh yeah, JP, that like that you were so aligned with your truth, it was too much for whatever vibration needs to censor stuff. Um, yeah, so it's kind of cool. And the other cool thing is like, I relative to who and what I was before, I'm uncensored. myself. And it, well, like when that happens, like it's oddly enough, even though like I do have like a warrior passion, like freedom from fear, freedom of speech, but oddly enough, it actually kind of, it's okay when YouTube, Facebook censors me, because they're not really censoring me, because I'm not censoring me. So that's more my reality that I get to live in. And then, like, going back to, the wisdom you brought up, it feels very secure living in a state where I honor myself rather than censor myself.
So what you're saying is the ironic twist is like before you were someone who had most of you, but would have felt kind of fear or lack or whatever if they took your circumstances away. But now you're in a place where you actually feel much more connected to you and ironically don't care if your circumstances are taken away.
Yes, yeah, indeed. And I've shared before, I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you, but the idea of, like, continuing to speak the messages that want to live through me. Some people have said, well, JP, dude, you've built up like an online empire. It's kind of cool. That's how you earn your living. And if that's taken away, like, you lose so much of your income, and then you're doing live comedy shows, but you can only do those because people know of you through the online stuff. So, like, you could lose so much if you keep speaking your truth. And, my honest answer to that was like, I would rather have to pick up cans on the side of the road to feed my family while honoring my truth, rather than enslaving myself to, like a constriction energy. And hopefully that doesn't happen yet. Like, I'd be okay with that. And I'm sure stressed if it came to it, yet still okay with it. So yeah, the willing to lose everything, like, man, what if that's the key that unlocks everything?
Yeah. And I love, I mean, could you imagine like if you had the choice between you are like you could apply that to everything. You could apply that to money, relationships, and even like the fear of what people think of you. Could you imagine if you had the choice between you have most people totally loving you, but deep inside you don't love yourself, or you actually feel a love for yourself and everyone else hates you?
Yeah.
What would you rather have? Like asking the audience that, like, what would you rather have if you had the choice between you actually feel a connection to yourself and source and everyone on the planet hates you, but you only feel love like you've never felt it, and you're almost in this state that because you're so connected to yourself, you feel an actual oblivion and the actual alignment of what your truth is, that actually you have nothing, what those people think of you has nothing to do with you. This is what I think, this is partly what 2020 is offering some of us. It's actually almost like the circumstances are closing in, and you can either go down with the circumstances or you're going to have to pop out. And you're going to have to be free, or you're going to have to just keep getting smaller and smaller and more depressed and more out of alignment. And it's kind of incredible because you have this incredible opportunity right now that people are being, okay, here you go, where you're just going to have warrior after warrior. And then you start to see someone move like JP, and someone move like our friend Mickey, and someone move like these other people that are in their truth so deeply. And now we have a higher bar of what's available while we have a higher need to get there, because the living situation as it's used to be isn't movable anymore. It's not functional anymore. It's like, this is the most exciting time ever. So there's a question here from James, and his question is Kyle and JP. So we have to answer in unison.
It would just do the script, yeah.
Yeah. As you move into, I would like to do it so in unison that it sounds like one person. If you can do
We
that.
could try. Yeah.
I want it to sound so good, like it's one person, like two speakers. So we'll just hope we nail this. Kyle and JP, as you move into your new story and being you. I assume your old story gets triggered. When that happens, how do you feel those sensations of fear, terror, and doubt, endure them, and keep moving forward? What has helped you through that crucial moment of letting those sensations be there without distracting yourself from them? Do you have an answer on that?
Yeah. First off, thank you, James.
Right.
And Kyle, so well read. And I also feel you speaking right now, Kyle, as we are in unison. And, it sounds like the one voice of JP, which is great. For me, I won't pretend like I'm batting 100% of like being on the ball with this. I'm maybe batting 300, which is freaking awesome compared to what I
Great.
used to do.
Yeah.
And I'm probably even exaggerating that. So I'm probably 150. I don't know, which is so much better than I used to. So for me, when I'm on the ball, I call it a FFF meditation, feel my fucking feelings. And so just the time and space, like I'll feel like, okay, anger, let's not look at that as a problem to solve. Let's not look at that as something to make different. Let's not look at that as like an excuse to go into the future. Let me feel the feeling. And that's not sexy. It's not complicated yet. That simplicity is what's most helpful for me.
That's so good. I mean, I actually, to add to James's question, I'll just say that I schedule a lot of time to have that like looked at. Like it's almost like a soul version of working out every day. Like
Mm.
whether it's having someone that's a space for me, whether it's I just sit and do nothing for a long time and just feel like there is a major it is so you would think during it how unnecessary this is, but it is the most effective thing there is to be with the feeling and not try to put what it means or where it came from or whatever that might come up naturally, but to just sit there and feel like shit
Yeah.
and just keep letting yourself feel like shit and let yourself just be with sensations in your body. One day I was feeling like a cave, and I kept seeing for a couple days actually this like me coming out of a cave, but I couldn't get out, and I felt like my stomach felt like a cave, and the me inside it couldn't leave the cave, and I just had to accept this cave that was there. I just had to sit there and go, I'm fine with a cave. And it just felt like this thing that I couldn't break through. It felt like this thing I couldn't get to the other side of. And that I'm just here with a cave. And there was probably 4 hours, which felt like 4 years at the time, of just being with this cave. But the next day, I felt so present. I felt so here. It was like there was no such thing as a cave. It wasn't like I got to the other side of it. It was like that was like a ghost in my body, and I've identified it as not legit. It's just a place I've so habitually run from through actions and addictions and habits that that cave was what I was running from, and the running from it was what gave it strength.
Yeah.
Right? So like I think that there's magical synchronicities. One thing I've said for years is when you let go of something, the only reason you're stressed is your mind can measure what you will lose. You can't see what you'll gain. And that applies to this, right? To be sitting here in pain. And I'm like, I'm losing so much. I'm losing my ability to look at my phone. I'm losing my escape. I'm losing my what's next. And I'm just in hell. But then all of a sudden I'm gaining this me that's bigger than that trap, that's bigger than that cage. And my usual pattern is feeling a cave and trying to break through it. But the consciousness that's trying to break through it is the cave. It's the
Yeah.
same, it's trying to break through itself, right? So when I activate and understand I'm the whole space, and I think that that's so partly like a benefit that I think part of the present thing and your triple F thing you're doing, you're feeling your fucking feelings, is partly why we see you on YouTube every day.
Hmm.
Like I think that's where your invincibility is coming from. Your leaps, you're saying no to what doesn't align and being there with your emotions until you realize you're a present space that's bigger than them. A byproduct is genius coming out in those videos.
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of is like the phoenix rising, and you know, James, you mentioned the sensations of fear. I used to pretend that fear was like harmful, but you know, I've given myself permission to just mentally reframe it so I can actually look at when I'm feeling my feelings, like, and understand I'm not diminishing, but I'm actually enhancing. So I look at fear, like fear is the feeling the fear is the flames of the phoenix that burns away who you're not, so the miracle of who you are can arise. And if you're not feeling the fear, it means you don't have the flames, which means who you are not is not getting burnt away. So I love to just have that frame of like, okay, cool, I'm feeling fear, like that's not comfortable, it's not supposed to be, but that's the flames helping burn away who I'm not, so the phoenix can arise. The miracle of who I am now, not who I remembered myself to be, but who I am now, can arise. And I think that's something we can all work with if it fits.
I don't think people know how huge that is. I mean, that was so big. In fact, if we make this a YouTube video, that's the preview clip. Comes right on the top. In fact, me saying that's the preview clip is the next part of the preview clip. In fact, then we'll run it from there till the end and start the video.
I smell a lot of views on that.
Yeah.
Really hooking people in.
Because what does that imply, by the way? Here's something I hear. The phoenix rising, it burns away what you're not, right? Does everyone feel that? And what that means is if you recoil and you don't live in your highest and you don't live in your truth, or you come up with why it won't work, then what you're not stays there and it runs the show. Do you get what I'm saying? The things that you're actually not, that you're trying to birth through, are actually the boss. Like if that thing that's not you, that could be burned away, stays there, it's actually in charge of you.
How would you like to be on a plane and have someone who is not the pilot run the plane, drive the plane?
Right. Right. Or that pilot as a 5-year-old. Because it's your 5-year-old that's running it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's making the decisions. Oh, we shouldn't, because I don't want to feel what I felt when I was younger. Right? Like, that's the deciding factor. That's what has to be burnt through.
Yeah.
So if we don't follow our highest, and probably how we've lived primarily up until 2020, is the thing that it's like a snake skin that's trying to die and be shed is actually staying there and telling it, running everything and telling the snake how to stay in the skin. It's like, you don't fucking belong on me anymore. I can't not do a metaphor.
Yeah. Not doing a metaphor is like a flower not blossoming.